All right. So today we're going to do our last concept. All right, so let's do a quick review here. When we have our slope-intercept formula, we're always going to know that the M is going to indicate the slope, right? It's the rise over the run. And the B is always going to indicate the y-intercept. And that's kind of where we begin on our y-axis. So it's where the line hits the y-axis. That's what the B is. All right, so today in our lesson, what we're going to do is graph the y-intercept on the y-axis, and then from that point, use the slope to make 2 more points. And this is what we've been doing. Today we're going to be able to start to take our information that we know and actually build a graph, and then eventually we'll also be writing equations. So let's get started. We're going to identify the slope and the y-intercept of the equation, and then we're going to graph on that same coordinate plane. We're going to just use some different colors. So if you are in class, grab a couple of colored pencils, or if you have colored pens, that will work too. You'll want 3 different colors, one for each line. Okay, so let's look at our first one. Y equals negative 3x. Now remember, our slope-intercept form is always y equals mx plus b. All right, so our m, and I'm going to highlight some things. You don't necessarily have to do the highlighting, but I just want you to be able to see. So our m is right here. It's always that number in front of the x. So right there I have a negative 3 as our m. And then in this case, we don't have a b, so our b is just 0. All right, so we're going to graph that. Now remember, we're always going to begin with the b. So if there is no b, then that means we just put a point right there at 0, 0, because we begin our graph at 0. And then we're going to use our slope. And our slope is negative 3. And remember, if we have a whole number, then we can just put it over 1. So we're going to rise negative 3, which means go down 3 over 1. So on my graph, I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1. So I did that from my original point. Here was my B, my 0, 0. So I went down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1, and I made a point. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to try to get 3 points for each line. So from this new point, I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and go over 1. Down 3 over 1. All right, so that is my first line. Draw a nice straight line through there, which is not straight. I miss Notability, how they just make your lines straight. All right, for my second one, I'm going to choose a new color. So now we know that slope, m, is 3 over 2. So now my m is 3 over 2, right? So I've got my, oops, I wanted this to be red this time. So m is 3 over 2. So there's my m, 3 over 2. So m is 3 over 2. And then my b, right? My b is whatever is being added or subtracted. So I've got 3. So it's a positive 3. All right, now for this line, I always begin with the b. And I'm beginning on the y-axis. So I go up 3 on the y-axis, and I put a point. That's my b. Now I use my slope from that B point, and I do my rise over run. So this slope is telling me to go up 3, right 2. So from my B right here, I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, right 2, 1, 2. Up 3 over 2. And now I'm going to do that again. I'm going to count up 3, 1, 2, 3, and go right 2. All right, there's my second line. And then my third line. So my m, y equals mx plus b. My m is negative 1/4, and my b is negative 5. Don't forget that if the sign is a negative, it's a negative 5. All right, so for this case, I start with my b. I always begin with b, so I go down 5. And I'm going to put a point right there. And then from there, I use my slope to create another point. So I'm just going to keep my pencil on that blue. And now I'm going to go down 1, right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go down 1, right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and there is my third line. My lines are not great, but my points are where they're supposed to be. All right, nice job. So in this next part, this is the part that's a little bit new. So now we have a graph, and we have to identify. It's now our job to identify the slope and the y-intercept of the line, and then we're going to write that equation. So remember, we're coming to write that equation. That's not what I wanted. We are going to write that equation that is the same as what we've been practicing. Y equals mx plus b. And so on this graph, we have to find the m and the b. So let's start with the b. Remember, the b is where it's the y-intercept. So I'm going to find my y-intercept. So if I look at my graph, it's just looking to see where does this line hit the y-axis. And it's doing that right here. So I can make that into a point. I can make this point right here. And that's a 1. So my b is a positive 1. All right, now I'm going to find my slope. And the only thing I have to do to find my slope is have another point. So I want to go up and down my line, and I want to look to see where does my line come in the middle of 4 boxes. So here it's in the middle of a line, but I want to find where it hits the corners. So the corners of 4 boxes. So here's one box, here's another box, here's another box, and here's another box. So right here is another point. Now what I don't want, this is another point right here, but it's in the middle of a box, so it's hard to know exactly what that point is. So we want to just focus on the ones that we can tell are definite points, right in between boxes and right on that y-axis. All right, so I'm going to count my slope. Remember, in order to count my slope, I go from my farthest left point, and I just make that right triangle, and I figure out what's my rise. Well, I went up 2. And I ran 1. So my slope, my rise is 2, my run is 1. So now I can make my equation. Y equals, and now instead of m, right, I'm plugging in my slope. So 2x plus b, which is 1. Now you may be wondering, why, if my slope is 2/1, why did I put 2? Well, these are the same thing. Any whole number over 1 is the same thing as that whole number. So it wouldn't be incorrect for you to write 2/1x, but it's just more likely what you're going to see is just the single number. If it's over 1, just put the whole number. All right, I know this is a lot, guys, but we're just wanting to introduce it so that you just see this skill. All right, let's try this one again. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to identify our b and our y. So remember, our y is just looking to see where does our line hit our y-intercept. And our line is hitting our y-intercept right here. And if I look at these numbers, this is 0, so that means this is 1. So that means our b is 1. All right, now I'm going to find another point somewhere on this line, and I can see another one, and I want to remember, get it where it's in between the boxes. So right here, it's in the middle of a line. Here, it's the middle of a line. Here, it's the middle of a line. But all the way here, it's in between boxes. It's at the corners of boxes. So I'm going to make my next point right there. All All right, so now for my left point, I'm going to make my right angle. And I'm going to figure out how many did I go down? 1, 2, so that's down 2, and I ran 3, so plus 3. So my rise over run is negative 2 over 3. So I'm going to make that equation, y equals mx plus b, and I'm just going to plug in the two numbers that I know. Y will always stay. Now instead of m, I have a negative 2/3 x plus b, whatever b is, and b in this case is 1. All right, now if you're feeling confident, give this one a try. Pause the video and give it a try, but if you're needing some help, that's fine too. So we'll start with finding our B. Where does our line connect with our y-intercept? And that's right here. And that's at the number negative 2. Now we need to find another point. There's another point. There's also another point over here, right? So you could use either of these points to find your slope. I'm going to just go from my B and make my right angle to connect those 2 points. So I rose 1 and I ran 3. I rose 1 and I ran 3. Rise over run. All right, so I've got y equals mx plus b. So I replace m with the slope, and I replace b with the b, which could be negative 2. So there's two ways to write this. It could be plus a negative 2, or you could just say minus 2. Either one is correct. They're both the same. All right, now we have a couple special cases. So what if the equations don't look like this? What if they don't look like y equals mx plus b? Well, here is the thing. If I'm going to say y equals 3, well, where is it that y equals 3? If I look at this graph, y, here's my y line right here, right? This is my y line. So y is going to equal 3 right here. Y is also going to equal 3 right here, right? Like this point right here is 3, 3. So y is 3. This point right here is 6, 3. Y equals 3. What about this point? This point is negative 3, 3. All of these points are where y equals 3. So I can draw a line, horizontal line straight across to show that y equals 3. So thinking in that same way, where does y equal negative 6? Well, y equals negative 6 right here. Y also equals negative 6 right here. And over here. So I could say that y equals negative 6 all the way across here. So it's a horizontal line at negative 6. All right, and then we have our second special case. And with our second special case, we have our x's. So now we're looking, where is x equal to positive 2? Well, here's my x line, right? This is my x-axis. And x is positive 2 right here. So if I make a point right here, that point is 0, oops, I did that wrong. That point is 2, x. 2, 0, I mean. Also up here, x is 2, y is 3. And over here, x is 2, y is negative 4. So this is the place, this line right here, all the way here, is all the places where x equals 2, right? X, all 2. Any ordered pair, the x is always first. So this is all the places where x equals 2. So now over here we have to do x equals -4. So here's the x-axis, here's -4. Here are all the places where x equals -4. So here, here, and I could go all the way, right? X equals -4 all the way through all of these points. So so I draw that line with the arrows to show that x equals -4 all the way through. All right, guys, great job. I know this is a tough skill, but we just wanted to introduce it to you, let you see it, let you hear about it. So go ahead and grab a practice sheet for today.